Former Chancellor Sajid Javid has backed Liz Truss to become the next Conservative leader, calling for urgent tax cuts in any attack on her rival Rishi Sunak's economic plans. Mr Javid, who withdrew his own bid to be leader last month before voting began, said Mr Sunak's plans could make the UK a middle-income economy. He said Ms Truss was best placed to rise to the challenge of our age. His backing came on the evening of the latest leadership hustings in Cardiff. Mr Sunak and Ms Truss are vying to win over Conservative Party members, whose votes will determine which of them will become the next Tory leader and British Prime Minister. The party's roughly 160,000 members started receiving ballots this week, with the result due on the 5th of September, when Prime Minister Boris Johnson will leave office. The pair will go head-to-head again in a debate on Sky News this evening. Wednesday's hustings event in Cardiff marked the first time either candidate had visited Wales since the leadership contest began. Mr Sunak was introduced by Swansea-born former Conservative leader Michael Howard, while Ms Truss was welcomed to the stage by Cloud West MP David Jones, a leading Brexiteer in the party. At the hustings, Ms Truss said a plan she had this week floated and then quickly scrapped to link public sector pay to local living costs had been misrepresented by the media and was not part of her central costings. Mr Sunak said he was glad Ms Truss had abandoned the plan, telling a crowd of Conservative members it would have meant, I think, potentially almost 500,000 workers in Wales getting a pay cut, which I don't think is the right policy to pursue. Then Mr Sunak appeared to U-turn himself on his own policy to scrap plans to relax the ban on onshore wind in England. Asked by a member of the party whether he would scrap the embargo on onshore wind, Mr Sunak replied yes, adding, "We've already said that we are open to do it, that we can do it with local authorities." But Mr Sunak's campaign later clarified he had misspoke and would not relax the ban. In other key moments during the hustings, Ms Truss accused Welsh First Minister Mark Drayford of being a low-energy version of former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, who was ashamed of our history, fended off criticism of her plan to scrap green levies, insisting that she would hit the net zero targets and not allow green issues be owned by the left, professed her love for Welsh singer Shirley Bassey, and offered to sing her James Bond theme Goldfinger. And Mr Sunak said he would be an active Prime Minister who would call out failures of devolution in Wales, argued he played an instrumental part in weakening Russia and promised to invest whatever it takes to defend the UK, and when asked what made him most nervous, said probably my wife and my 2 kids. Recent polling of Conservative members suggests Ms Truss had a significant lead over Mr Sunak as voting began this week. Mr Javid's endorsement gives her campaign another boost and means she now has the backing of 5 of the other candidates who were originally nominated for the leadership. The endorsement is bruising for Mr Sunak, who worked with Mr Javid in the Treasury and succeeded him as Chancellor in 2020. The pair, who both had careers in finance, had previously appeared friendly, with Mr Sunak tweeting about a Star Wars cinema outgoing with Mr Javid in 2019. The 2 men resigned from the cabinet within minutes of each other last month, triggering a ministerial mutiny that forced Mr Johnson to quit as Tory leader. Mr Javid launched a leadership bid, but struggling to win enough support, dropped out the race early before candidates were nominated by Conservative MPs. The former Health Secretary has now thrown his weight behind Ms Truss and her policy of introducing tax cuts immediately. Writing in the Times newspaper on Wednesday evening, Mr Javid argued that tax cuts are a prerequisite for growth and warned that the UK risks sleepwalking into a big state, high-tax, low-growth social democratic model, which risks us becoming a middle-income economy by the 2030s. However, Mel Stride, Conservative chair of the Treasury Committee and Sunak ally, argued that making tens of billions of pounds worth of unfunded tax cuts would make the problem of inflation even worse. I think that would be really quite dangerous, he told the BBC.